but it's not me, it's you. What you're turning into is some kind of something that I never knew. You used to be okay, and I like you that way, but I don't think that I like you better. No, I don't think that I like you better.
Hi, this is John Festmeyer, 3D modeling MFA candidate at Academy of Art University, working on my thesis, Bodacious Creed, which is a blend of steampunk, western, and horror. You can read more about it in the links. In the link below, there will be a link to my blog, and you can also check other videos on this channel. Got quite a few so far showing my progress. So the blog does go farther back, though. The blog goes from when I first started working on the concepts. The vlog starts when I started the modeling of the characters, and there's about 3 months before I started doing the modeling. So anyhow, here's my main character, Bodacious Creed, and what I wanted to talk about with him right now is the concept of pushing a 3D model, pushing the details, pushing them beyond what you would think you should do for it to look right. If you think about the sculptures, classical sculptures, that's kind of the way to think about it. For instance, there we go. So here's some classical sculptures, and I admit I don't know who did all of these. I downloaded some. I know some. I downloaded a bunch of Michelangelo and Rodin. But you can see, for instance, here on this child sculpture, there's a little chin cleft there. The dimples are really coming in. There's even some real depth here underneath the eyes. Things that you wouldn't really see on the skin level of a child, but when you look at this, it looks right. It looks real. And there's several reasons for that. One is that we can actually, skin is semi-translucent. Think about putting a light bulb behind your hand and how you see, a pink glow is basically you can see right through, almost right through your fingers. So with that translucent nature of skin, we can actually see a little bit of what's underneath the surface. Like when you see the color of veins and so on. Those are details you see. So you actually, when you look at the eyes, you actually see that how it goes without the skin, how the muscles go in like that. And so if you see that on a sculpture, it looks right, and the sculpture isn't translucent, so it needs to have that extra depth. So, and that's I like a lot of the detail on these. Let's see, there's some Rodin, obviously Michelangelo. On the David, here you can see the creases under the eyes too, that his skin would not probably go in that much, but it looks right. So in addition to that, another thing is that when you push those, well, the idea is to think of the sculpture as if, while you're sculpting it, as if it does not have texture on it. So I'm going to turn the texture off Creed now. I'm going to put him on solo, and he really looks like a sculpture. And there's some things I need to work on him still, but he's definitely coming along well. So for instance, when I made him thinner, though, I made the back's kind of square. I need to fix that. That was just me bringing everything in to make him look somewhat emaciated, since he is he's been buried for several weeks and dead, and he's brought back to life. On his face, I've already done some of the eye stuff. Now, as a zombie, his eyes would probably be kind of sunken in anyway. But what I need to do is think of the sculpted layer as a layer beneath the skin. So sculpt him really as if he has been, flayed or something, as if it's the layer below the skin, and then when you put the texture back on, it looks more natural, and from a distance it looks more natural. So anyway, a little tip for people sculpting: it's a good idea to push for sculpting in ZBrush. It's a good idea to push the details and to really think like the masters, and perhaps reference the masters like Michelangelo, and see how they push things. It's stylized, but stylized in such a way that it, instead of looking fake stylized, it looks more real. It's almost hyper real, but in a way that when you look at these sculptures, you don't think stylized. You might think muscular, but you think realistic. So that's my thing for that. Another little detail here for you people who know ZBrush and anybody else interested. So right now he's at subdivision level 5. Every time you subdivide a mesh, it multiplies the amount of polygons by 4. So he's up to about 2.5 million polygons. Now I had him at subdivision level 6, which is about 10 million polygons. That's a lot. But I realized that I needed to go back a subdivision level or two to add a certain level of detail, and then I can add really fine detail at the 10 million polygon level. So I was actually going to bring him down to 4. Problem that happens there, though, is that I've already done this texture at level 5, and that would really mess up the texture. It does strange things. You get this really huge pixelation problem, and so even though I wanted to go back that level, I think 5 will work just fine. So I brought him back to, I deleted the subdivision level 6, which I hadn't really worked much in anyway. I'm down to subdivision level 5, and so I'm going to be doing details in there. The reason why I actually had to delete the higher subdivision is because the layers here, for instance, I have if I click this, his forehead wound pops in, his cheek, so that's, those. So that's like the wound layers and whatnot, and I wanted to do a layer for the detail on this level, and then at level 6 do a layer for that. But you can only work with the layers at the highest subdivision level. It would have been great if I could have gone down to subdivision level 4 and created a layer and recorded onto that layer at that subdivision level, but as long as there are higher levels, it won't let me. So I just deleted 6. I went down to 5. It's a little bit of a compromise, but that way I don't have a problem with the texture messing up, and I'm still at a pretty good level for the detail I want to do. Okay, and the next thing I wanted to show was the work I did on Anna's goggles this week. So if I bring that up, you can say Lightbox, Tool, Bodacious Creed, Anna Lynn Boyd. I had the goggles selected when I saved her, and that's why it actually shows just the goggles in that layer. And there as well, I guess. And I have it on solo. So, oops, I see what I did. Okay, there we go. Okay, so here's Anna. Her feet are not in the correct pose, which is why they're popping out of her shoes. But okay, so if I bring it up here, you can see the goggles. One of the details I had fun working on was creating this mechanism here, by which this extra lens can flip up and flip down. So she's got a second lens that can go on top of the other one to see things more closely or whatever. And here we have, there's a leather strap on either side. I'm going to put a little bolt or screw there to connect it in. The leather here I'll have sewn with heavy thread, some thread sewing this together here on this cloth strap that goes around the back. The metal will probably be steel or something. Around the goggles, it's hard to see from here, but the part going right by her eye here, and this works a little better when it's smooth, but anyway, that's going to be leather, whereas so that it's comfortable on her face, where the rest is metal. What are you doing to me here, ZBrush? Okay. Back to the goggles. Okay. And the lenses were actually done with spheres that I flattened enough to where they basically look like lenses, somewhat convex a little bit on either side, so they have that nice curvature. So I said this does flip up and down, so probably in one pose I'll have it down, another one I'll have it up. And anyway, yeah, so that's the goggles. And I may do some detail on there with texture or texture and bump map. I'm not sure yet, but that's how those are looking. So, all right, that's all I've got to show this week. Expect more detail work next week as I really concentrate on getting those kind of high sculptural details into Creed. I think it's going to have to be a little bit different for Anna. Women, it's almost surprising how differently you have to think about sculpting women and men. So I'm not quite sure how to push the detail on her, especially in her face. And that's something I plan to work on next week, but I plan to work quite a bit this week on getting Creed looking more detailed. So I'm sure I'll have more to show on that in my next video. Anyway, thanks for watching.